Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second Fuel Injection Podcast, Quarter of College Debate. Today we have Doug F. and Damon Matharu on board to talk about whether or not car modifications are necessary. On the attacking team, we have Doug F., and on the defense team, we have Damon, and I am the jury. So, would the attacking team like to begin with your statements?
Yes, I think car modifications are... it's hard because I'm playing devil's advocate here. I'm actually for them, so I got to play the opposite. But I do have a strong feeling that, these people go out and they want to modify their cars, and they have no idea of what they're doing. They just find a part or something that looks really cool and want to bolt or stick it on their car somehow. I think if you want modifications done to your car, all manufacturers now have some kind of tuning outlet of their own. And why would I want to bolt something onto my car that could either ruin my warranty and make that null and void, which we all know if you own a car, your warranty is very important. And then second of all, that means you think you know more than a manufacturer. I don't buy into that. I think if you want your car tuned and mods done, let the manufacturer do it. You use AMG or Mercedes. They're really simple. If I wanted a modified Mercedes, I would send it to AMG. If I really wanted a modified one, it would go to their Skunk Works. And on down the line up till I got the car I wanted with a warranty and made to the manufacturer's specifications. That's just my general thought.
Okay, very good. And it looks like Cody's just joined us, so welcome, Cody. He's also on the defense team with Damon. So, but good statement, Doug. I personally think those are some very good arguments for the attacking team. And would we like to now move on to the defense team, either Damon or Cody, to talk about why modifications are a good thing to do to a vehicle? Either one of you.
I'll start then. Firstly, there's a bit more technicality rather than an argument. There is definitely necessary car modifications, as in reliability modifications, swapping old Mercedes S-Classes and Range Rovers over to coils rather than the infamously bad air suspension and IMS bearings on Porsche 996 and 986 models. So there's definitely necessary work, and doing it yourself is a lot cheaper than getting a mechanic to do it, especially when it's an engine out job. And although in the UK we don't have many garages and places, in America you have that open space to be able to do the work in a nice warm environment. And I think especially with older cars where it's a bit simpler, it will save you enough money and enough time. Well, it won't save you time, you spend time on it, but it can be a fun experience. And although you could ruin your warranty, most of the cars modified are a lot older than quite out of warranty, especially late 90s cars, and with the new Supras, RX-7s, the kind of stuff that's recently been modified a lot. So there's definitely space for modification, and doing it yourself, especially on older cars, is better, especially because quote-unquote reputable tuning companies occasionally do mess up. If you've heard all the stuff Hennessy Performance have been messing around with cars recently, if you mess it up yourself, you've only got yourself to blame. If you mess it up with a company, if you mess it up with a company, you've got to deal with the company, and they're going to try and protect their money more than anything, whereas you're going to try and protect your car.
Yeah, I think that's very true. Cody, would you like to stick your 2 cents in?
Yeah, but first, can you guys hear me? Did I fix it from last time?
Yes, we can all hear you. Yes.
Okay, great. Also, sorry for the late join. I woke up 20 minutes before this started.
That's okay. No worries.
So, one of the things I was thinking about when I was trying to figure out my stance on this was what kind of what kind of modifications are modifications, and then which ones are just replacements, like OEM, like swapping OEM brakes to more OEM brakes. That's less, to me, that was less of a modification and more of a replacement of an already OEM part. But I kind of came down to the thought that it sort of matters on intent, because, like, let's say with some modifications, I'm sorry, I just woke up.
No worries, take your time.
So, okay. Oh, the warranty. I wanted to touch on that. So, if you get, let's say, a Viper, a Gen 5 Viper, and you want to modify it beyond its current capabilities. It wasn't the warranty, it was that. Well, there's a company called Prefix that makes a 9-liter Viper, but they're not really within FCA. So, in the case of the Viper, at least, you can't really go to, let's say, AMG, SRT, Mopar, whatever, to get 800 horsepower from the crank. You have to go aftermarket. So it kind of, to me, it kind of depends on what kind of modifications you want to do, because some of them, if you want like that extra 10%, that extra 20%, God forbid, then you have to go to Calvo Motorsports, RSI. I can't remember the other company that makes stupid fast Vipers, but it depends. Yeah, to me, it really depended on intent. Because let's say you want better brakes, well, you can go OEM because maybe your pads are worn, maybe your rotors are warped. But if you want even better stopping power, you might not be able to go to just another factory option. Let's say a bigger factory brake rotor that just might not exist. You might have to go aftermarket. And in the case of older cars, some of those companies, like Saab, for example, they don't exist anymore, and they don't make parts for those cars anymore. So while there are OEM remakes of those parts, sooner or later, either those are going to run out, or the only option there's going to be aftermarket options where there are bigger brakes, bigger intakes, bigger whatever. And in some cases, those parts make your car more efficient, either the brakes or maybe a better air filter. So in the case of older cars, eventually aftermarket mods, however extreme, are going to become necessary. For newer cars, depends on what you want. You might just, for the kind of performance you want to get out of your car, you might have to go to aftermarket because that's the only thing that exists. That's my thought.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that is a kind of, and without wishing to get too, without wishing to agree too much with either side, I do think that aftermarket can be somewhat useful because, as you said, there may not be many options. So I think that is a valid point. Doug, would you like to make a counter argument or say anything else?
Sure. I guess around here where I live, it's really bad. First of all, most of the people who buy these older cars and say we're going to modify it up, whether they want to make it a street racer or they just want to look cool, whatever, they start out with, let's face it, $800 to $1,000 '80s Civic, okay, that wasn't a good car to begin with. Just be honest. And then they go out here to AutoZone or pick your favorite auto store. I don't know, pick one. And they just buy what they think looks cool. And we got them all over the place. Well, first of all, you got an $800 to $1,000 car. It's got a $2,000 stereo system. It has a donut spare, 4 fenders or 5 different colors. And then they want to go out here and buy these great big Le Mans racing wings and put on the thing. It's front wheel drive, people. What do you want to do? A wheelie going down the street? Second of all, then, they got a trash bag over the window because they spent so much money buying new tires and rims that they didn't fix the problem. And I think this is where car modifiers get a bad rap. You got $2,000 rims on a $500 car that won't start, that you have to push start down the road, but your rims look great, And I think that's where the aggravation with this car modding has come, because it's always done badly. You never, I'll see 10 cars done badly compared to one that's done well. And that does turn off a lot of people because they don't want to look like those people. You don't want to be going down the road in your, Kia with a great big plywood wing like a Superbird had, and but people do these, and I think that's where my aggravation comes in. As far as like updating older cars and trying to save them, you'll have to do what you have to do. We've been doing that with old muscle cars around here since they've been around. You know, when you're backed into a corner, you have to do what you have to do. But I think if you're starting out with anything decent, parts are available. If I was going to go out, let's say to a WRX, let's say I'm going to build a WRX, I found one cheap, it's used, let's say early 2000s. You can still get a lot of OEM parts, and you can get upgraded OEM parts because, let's face it, Subaru hasn't changed a lot over the years. So you can still go in by the, you know, if you just got a standard WRX or even a standard Impreza, go in and buy the STI parts, the WRX parts, the parts you want, you know, to get your power or your handling or your braking. And they know their cars better than anybody. They know what fits. They know how things work because they've spent millions of dollars to make sure that brake works a certain way, or that one component is important. I don't know. I think there's so many options. As far as people doing it themselves, I think if you're a skilled mechanic and you know what you're doing, and not only do you know how to bolt or add these parts on, but you know what that part's going to do and why. Fine, go ahead, I guess. You know, because if you can save money, that's true. You can save money by doing your own work. But I also kind of disagree, because if you have a company or a factory do it, yes, it falls back on them. And if you mess it up, like he said, it comes back on you. But when they mess it up, it's their responsibility to fix it. And if that part breaks another part, then they have to fix everything that broke during that. And if it's on you, that bill could get really expensive, because you went to bolt something on, you had no idea. You found this great big supercharger that you're going to bolt to this little tiny motor, and now you melted the piston rods and the crank right out of it because it wasn't built to do that. Whereas a aftermarket manufacturer or the manufacturer themselves know that's a bad idea, and they won't do that. And I get people get to chasing these numbers, and they forget that some of these cars aren't built to handle the numbers they're wanting to put through them. And so I believe that that's where, you know, if you take it to the original manufacturer or a reputable tuning company, if the engine blows up and you got buckets of parts all over the road because you was out romping around on it, if you done it, you have to fix all those parts, and now that's a lot of money out of your pocket. Whereas if you took it to the tuner, blows up, parts all over the road, they have to replace it. And that's something I like, because then, hey, that's on them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a pretty big issue with a lot of people, is that they think, oh no, what if it blows up? Or what if something bad happens? I have to put all this money into it. But then if the manufacturer or the tuning company does it, then it's on them. So I think
Right.
that is a good point to make to bring up. So lastly, would either of the defense team members like to have any last thoughts? Say any last thoughts?
Yeah. So one thing that I've noticed that honestly makes a lot of sense is that we're talking about like engine mods, handling mods, whatever. And I have to say, as someone who on my Snapchat is talking about how they kind of blew up their Subaru, you have a good point about people putting way too much power through their car. That's a very, very good point. We've seen that all too many times.
Too many.
Just having intake manifolds cracked. But what if we even said, if someone, let's say who owns a Honda Accord, wants to move their bike, or sorry, not wants to move their bike, but wants to carry their bike to go onto a trail, but they don't want to have a roof rack or anything like that, and they have to add a rear tow bar. Well, if that was an original factory option, well, that is a modification. Now, it's not typically what we would call a modification, but so even beyond a lot of the, let's say, enthusiast modifications that we're talking about here, there's even some more normal ones that everyday people have to add for some of their lifestyles. So let's say that the Accord owner can add a bike rack onto the back of their car, and then take the bike and then carry it to God knows whatever trail they want to go to. So I guess that's actually it for me.
Yeah, I think that's a subject that hasn't been touched on a lot, actually, is what like more daily modifications that people can do, non-enthusiast modifications that can actually be useful for towing things, occurring things, transporting things to places. Yeah. Damon, any last thoughts?
I just think that I'm not exactly sure how I should word it. I think that you need to do a little light modification. You've got to start small modification to work up to bigger stuff. And yes, in the past you didn't have the internet, so there'd be very little information. So you could go out, blow up a Civic or a Subaru because you don't know what you're doing. But I'm sure anyone who's competent with the internet can Google it and figure out what the limits are of the engine and how to get to those limits without exploding into a million pieces. And I know people don't do that, obviously, because we've all seen it on Instagram and Snapchat and stuff where there's a piston on the floor. But nowadays you can safely modify a car as long as you use common sense with the assistance of the internet and a proper space to do it. I'm pretty sure as long as you take your time, you can modify a car to be okay. And we're talking radical modifications. Like slight modifications, I think are quite easy to do. Say you start with an early ND MX-5, so it's just out of warranty. You want a little bit more power, just put exhaust intake, basic things, make 20 more horsepower, and you're not really risking the engine. You're not putting boost through it. It's not going to make too big of a difference. And then you want a bit firmer suspension, so you put a set of coilovers in it, and then you put then you want wider tires. If you build modifications up slowly, you can still have a reasonably reliable car and slowly reach limits rather than pushing it all the way straight away, which is where the bad rep for modifications comes through. People who want to build a 1,000 horsepower Civic within a month. That is where the bad rep modifications come through. And if people took their time, I think it'd be a lot less exploded Civics.
Yeah, that's wow. That actually is that pretty much sums it up, honestly, I think. And I don't want to sound too biased, but I think that does sum it up. A lot of people just kind of they maybe get impatient and they just want to do it all in one go, and they don't think about building it up gradually. So yeah, I think that is a very fair point. I think all of you have made very fair points. And I believe I have come to my conclusion, and against all of my natural instincts and all of my, automotive enthusiast petrolhead instincts, I actually have to go with the defense team. Although Doug did make some very good points, the defense team also made some very valid points, and some points that honestly I wasn't expecting to have them make. So I think very good job on the defense team's part. Thank you guys for coming. Congratulations to the defense team for winning. And so the consensus is modifications can be necessary. So like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you guys next week.